The following is a class on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, Text 10 through 11, given by His Divine Grace, Hridayananda Das Goswami Acharya Dev, on April 14th, 1987, in New York.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 12 and 13? Sorry, 12. Maitreya uvacha pritu prajanam karunam nishamya paridevitam dirgham dadhyo kuruseshta nimittam sonvapadyata. After hearing this lamentation and seeing the pitiable condition of the citizens, King Prithu contemplated this matter for a long time to see if he could find out the underlying causes. So that lamentation was as follows. I'll read that again. Ayam rajan jatarena vitapta yathagnina kotarastena vriksha Samadhya jata sharanam sharanyam jaksadidho vriddikara patirnaha tanno bhavani hatu ratveyanam ksudharjitanam nardeva deva javananam shyamo ujjiturja Bharatapati swam kiraloka pala. Dear King, just as a tree with a fire burning in the hollow of the trunk gradually dries up, we are drying up due to the fire of hunger in our stomachs. You are the protector of surrendered souls, and you have been appointed to give employment to us. Therefore, we have all come to you for protection. You are not only a king, but the incarnation of God as well. Indeed, you are the King of all kings. You can give us all kinds of occupational engagements, for you are the master of our livelihood. Therefore, O King of all kings, please arrange to satisfy our hunger by the proper discharge of food grains, by the proper distribution of food grains. Please take care of us, lest we soon die for want of food. And then it said that after hearing this lamentation and seeing the pitiable condition of the citizens, King Prithu contemplated this matter for a long time to see if he could find out the underlying causes. Now, text 13. Iti vyavasita udya praghita stara asana sandadhe vishikam bhume krudha tripura ha yatha iti vyavasito buddhya praghita sharasana sandadhe vishikam bhume krudha tripura ha yatha. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Having arrived at a conclusion, the king took up his bow and arrow and aimed them at the earth, exactly like Lord Shiva, who destroys the whole world out of anger. Purport. King Prithu found out the cause for the scarcity of food grains. He could understand that it was not the people's fault, for they were not lazy in executing their duties. Rather, the earth was not producing sufficient food grains. This indicates that the earth can produce sufficiently if everything is properly arranged, but sometimes the earth can refuse to produce food grains for various reasons. The theory that there is a scarcity of food grains due to an increase of population is not a very sound theory. There are other causes that enable the earth to produce profusely or to stop producing. King Prithu found out the proper causes and took the necessary steps immediately. Now read the next verse. Pradepamana dharani nisham yodayudham jatam gau satyapadravadhita vigiva mriga yudruta. When the earth saw that King Prithu was taking his bow and arrows to kill her, she became very much afraid and began to tremble. She then began to flee, exactly like a deer which runs very swiftly when followed by a hunter. Being afraid of King Prithu, she took the shape of a cow and began to run. Purport. Just as a mother produces various children, both male and female, the womb of Mother Earth produces all kinds of living entities in various shapes. Thus it is possible for Mother Earth to take on innumerable shapes. At this time, in order to avoid the wrath of King Prithu, she took the shape of a cow. Since the cow was never to be killed, Mother Earth thought it wise to take the shape of a cow in order to avoid King Prithu's arrows. King Prithu, however, could understand this fact, and therefore he did not stop chasing the cow-shaped earth. Taman vadhavat tadvainya pupitot-yarunaiksana Sharang dhanushi sandhaya yatra yatra palayate. Seeing this, Maharaj Prithu became very angry, and his eyes became as red as the early morning sun. Placing an arrow on his bow, he chased the cow-shaped earth wherever she would run. Sadisho vidisho devi Rodasi chantarang tayo Dhavanti tatra tatraina Darshanudyatayudham. The cow-shaped earth ran here and there in outer space between the heavenly planets and the earth, and wherever she ran, the king chased her with his bows and arrows. Loke navindatatranam vainyan mrityoriva praja trastata nivabritti hridayena viduyata. Just as a man cannot escape the cruel hands of death, the cow-shaped earth could not escape the hands of the son of Vena. At last, the earth, fearful, her heart aggrieved, turned back in helplessness. Uvacha cha mahabhagam dharma gyapana vatsalaha trahi mang abhibhutanam palanevastito bhavan. Addressing the great opulent King Prithu as the knower of religious principles and the shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of all living entities. Now you are situated as the king of this planet." Purport. The cow-shaped earth addressed King Prithu as Dharmagya, which refers to one who knows the principles of religion. The principles of religion dictate that a woman, a cow, a child, a Brahmin, and an old man must be given all protection by the king or anyone else. Consequently, Mother Earth took the shape of a cow. She was also a woman. Thus she appealed to the king as one who knows the principles of religion. Religious principles also dictate that one is not to be killed if he surrenders. She reminded King Prithu that not only was he an incarnation of God, but he was situated as the king of the earth as well. Therefore his duty was to excuse her. Satvang jighangsase kosmat dinang akritakil visham anishyat kathang josang dharma gyaiti jo mataham. The cow-shaped earth continued to appeal to the king. "I am very poor and have not committed any sinful activities. I do not know why you want to kill me. Since you are supposed to be the knower of all religious principles, why are you so envious of me, and why are you so anxious to kill a woman?" Purport. The earth appealed to the king in two ways. A king who knows religious principles cannot kill anyone who has not committed sinful activities. Apart from this, a woman is not to be killed even if she does commit some sinful activities. Since the earth was innocent and was also a woman, the king should not kill her. Praharanti navai strishu kritagaksapi jantavaha kimuta tad vidharajan karunatina vatsala. Even if a woman does commit some sinful activity, no one should place his hand upon her. And what to speak of you, dear king, who are so merciful? You are a protector, and you are affectionate to the poor. Mang vipatyajarang navam yatra viswang pratishtitam atmanang ja prajaschima tathamam vasidhasyasi. The cow-shaped earth continued, My dear king, I am just like a strong boat, and all the paraphernalia of the world is standing upon me. If you break me to pieces, how can you protect yourself and your subjects from drowning? Purport. Beneath the entire planetary system is the Garbha water. Lord Vishnu lies in this Garbha water, and from his abdomen a lotus stem grows, and all the planets within the universe are floating in the air, being supported by this lotus stem. If a planet is destroyed, it must fall into the water of Garbha. The earth, therefore, warned King Prithu that he could gain nothing by destroying her. Indeed, how would he protect himself and his citizens from drowning in the Garbha water? In other words, outer space may be compared to an ocean of air, and each and every planet is floating on it just as a boat or island floats on the ocean. Sometimes planets are called dvipa, or islands, and sometimes they are called boats. Thus, the cosmic manifestation is partially explained in this reference by the cow-shaped earth. Prituruvacha vasudhe tvang vadhishyami machasana parang mukhin agam barhisi jabringti natanoti chanu vasu. King Prithu replied unto the earthly planet, My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share of the yajnas we performed, but in return you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason, I must kill you. Purport. The cow-shaped earthly planet submitted that she not only was a woman, but was innocent and sinless as well. Thus she argued that she should not be killed. Besides, she pointed out that being perfectly religious-minded, the king could not violate the religious principles that forbade killing a woman. In reply, Maharaj Prithu informed her that first of all she had disobeyed his orders. This was her first sinful activity. Secondly, he accused her of taking her share of the yajna sacrifices, but not producing sufficient food grains in return. Javasam jagdhyanu dinam naiva dogdhyanu dhasang payaha naiva dogdhyo dhasang payaha tasyam evam vidushtayam dando natra nasasyate. Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bag so we can utilize your milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. Purport. The cow eats green grasses in the pasture and fills her milk bag with sufficient milk so that the cowherdsmen can milk her. Yajna sacrifices are performed to produce sufficient clouds that will pour water over the earth. The word paya can refer both to milk and to water. As one of the demigods, the earthly planet was taking her share in the yajnas, that is, she was eating green grass. But in return, she was not producing sufficient food grains, that is, she was not filling her milk bag. Prithu Maharaj was therefore justified in threatening to punish her for her offense. So these verses are significant. The last two verses are Prituruvacha. Vasudhe Tvang Vadhishyami. Vasudhe. Vasu means wealth. The earth is called Vasudha or Vasundhara. Same thing. Vasu means wealth or opulence, resources, and dha, sustaining, holding up. It's the same root, the root dha, as Prabhupada explains in his brilliant definition of the word dharma, that which sustains the living being, from the root dha. Here, dhi. No, actually, this is a different root here. Vasundhara is the same root. So we'll use that word. Same. Vasundhara. Dhara, like giri dhari, the holding up. So dharma is that which sustains a living being. And similarly here, vasundhara means the earth which sustains or supports all the resources. There are so many mountains, rivers, minerals, forests, creatures, human beings and their cities, and agriculture. And all this is being supported or sustained by the earth. Therefore, the earth is called Vasudha or Vasundhara. So here, Prithu Maharaj, after hearing, first he chased her all over the place. Then when she gave her arguments, she made her case. Then Prithu replied, first he said, Vasudhe. He addressed her as Vasudhe, O sustainer of all resources, Vasudha. Tvang vadishyami, I will kill you, he said bluntly. Vasudhe tvang vadishyami. Matchasana parang mukhi, because you have disobeyed my order. The word for disobeyed here is also interesting, parang mukhi, meaning, it means literally turn the face away. Just like someone orders you, but you turn away your face. This is called parangmukha. Parangmukha. So he said, Matchasana parangmukhi. You have turned your face away from my order. Bhagam barasi ja bringte. You accepted barishi in the sacrifice, your share, bhagam. Nat tanuti chano vasu. But you do not distribute. Nat tanuti. Bhagam barasi ja bringte nat tanuti chano vasu. Vasu, the wealth, does not extend to us. In other words, you are not distributing. So, this incident of the cow, who is, of course, the cow represents Bhumi, the earth, is very interesting example which can be understood on different levels. On one level, we can understand that the modern leaders of the world do not properly distribute food grains. There was an interesting case in Ethiopia, I think, where the government had spent millions and millions of dollars for their own luxury, but the people were starving to death. This was a very graphic example. So in many places in the world, there is not proper distribution. There is gross selfishness. And the leaders do not distribute. Also, we can understand the position of a devotee who does not preach Krishna consciousness. It's also something like this. In other words, we have received so many spiritual resources or opulences, so much spiritual knowledge from Srila Prabhupada. From Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and so on, Lord Krishna. So if we do not distribute, then again we shall be punished in this form of being overwhelmed by material desires. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jare dakho tare koho Krishna upadesh. Jare dakho, whomever you meet, tare koho, tell him Krishna upadesh, the message of Krishna. Krishna upadesh. Amara gyai, by my order, guru hai, become a guru. That means become a teacher of Krishna consciousness. Amara gyai guru hai tare desh. Save this land. Tar. Prabhupada is called Paschatya Desha Tarine. Tara is the verb. That means that you deliver a desh, this land. So, kiva vipra, kiva nyasi, sudra kenenoi, jai Krishna tattva vita, say Guru Hoy. It doesn't matter whether someone is born in a Brahmin family. In other words, we don't have to be intellectual. We don't require college degrees. These things are not necessary. Kiva vipra kiva nyasi. We may not be sannyasis. Of course, someone is a sannyasi, but one may not be a sannyasi, just like Satyaraj. Where's Satyaraj? He's written his book. So outwardly he's not a sannyasi, but he's written his book, so he's teaching. So, kiva vipra kiva nyasi sudra kinenoi. Even if one is a very simple person, by nature sudra. In other words, he's not a businessman who can manage his own business. He's not a big king or prince. He's not an intellectual. He's just, as they say in America, an ordinary Joe. So, Shudra Kinenai. Jai Krishna Tattva Vita. But if he's the knower of Krishna Tattva, what is the Krishna Tattva? Krishna Tattva means to know Mattak Paratarang Nanyat Kinchirasti Dhananjaya. There's nothing beyond Krishna. Mattak Paratarang Nanyat Kinchirasti Dhananjaya. Mai sarvamidang protam sutre moniganai. Everything is resting on me just like pearls are strung on a thread. Vasudeva sarvamiti. So to know that Krishna is the absolute truth, that everything emanates from Krishna. He's the source of everything. He maintains everything. All that is destroyed merges to rest within him. As he also explains, Sarvasya chaham hri sannivishto. Lord Krishna says, I am in everyone's heart, mattak smritir jnanam apohanam cha. From me alone comes smriti, memory, jnanam, knowledge, apohanam, or forgetfulness. So to know that Krishna is the absolute truth, or succinctly, as Prabhupada said, if we know three things, as Lord Krishna said, Bhuktarang Jagatapasam. Lord Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the supreme proprietor of all planets. Suridang Sarvabhutanam. And he is the well-wisher of all living beings. Surya. Gyatva Mam Shanti Richi. If you understand Krishna in this way, you will achieve peace. Real peace. We want peace. If we are disturbed by lust, if we are disturbed by pride, if we are unhappy because we are not being recognized, or if we want different kinds of sense gratification to satisfy our tongue, belly, genitals, or all of our different senses, if the mind is disturbed by different speculations, or if we desire mystic powers, in all these cases there's no peace. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakaliya shanta. Those who desire bhukti, ordinary sense gratification, that means sex life and home sweet home and all these things, and keep the ghee on the stove. So this is all bhukti. And mukti, we may even want salvation. We are very concerned with our own personal salvation. And siddhi, mystic powers, these are just like nowadays in America. People have already become bored or satiated with ordinary things. Just, get a nice wife, have some kids, mow your lawn, plant an apple tree, and play with the kiddies and all that. So they're bored with that. They've done all that. So now they want supernatural powers. Therefore, they're into computers and spaceships and Star Wars. In other words, they want something beyond just ordinary home sweet home. Now they want some type of mystic power. Of course, because it's the age of Kali, the age of iron, and people are gross, they seek that type of mystic power not through the authorized yoga system, but by their own towers of Babel. Or just as Ravan, the illustrious demon, Ravan built or tried to build a stairway to heaven. In other words, by his own construction company, by his own engineering, he wanted to build a stairway to heaven. So similarly, people in America now, by their own endeavor, by their own computer technology and space technology, without any type of worship, there's no worship. There is no surrender to any representative of God. They're simply a gross, aggressive attempt to take the universe by storm and to acquire different types of mystic powers. So that's called Siddhi Kami. Siddhi Kami. Anyway, if we desire mukti, sense gratification, ordinary sense, or mukti, liberation for ourselves, without thinking of actually pleasing God, just trying to save your own neck by salvation, and siddhi, mystic powers, all these things, mukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakali, all these people, sakali, ashanta, they're not peaceful, they're still disturbed by these desires. But Krishna Bhakta Nishkam, the Krishna Bhakta, a devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna, he has no selfish desire. His only desire is to serve Krishna. Anyabhilasita shunyam jnana karmadinadana. So, Krishna Bhakta Nishkam, ataeva. Ataeva means, therefore, shanta. He's peaceful. Krishna Bhakta Nishkam, ataeva shanta. So, Lord Krishna explains this also. Bhoktarang jagatapasang sarvaloka mahesharang suradang sarvabhutanang gyatva. If you know these things, if we understand the position of Krishna, mang shantim richati, then such a person achieves richati, shanting nirvanam paramam vatsangstang adhigachati. There are many statements in the Gita, many statements about how we can become peaceful. So Lord, there's also a statement to proverb Prabhupada quoted, Jasmin tushte jagat tushtam. When God is satisfied, the universe is satisfied, whole universe. As was demonstrated by Lord Krishna when he took a little remnant of vegetable from the pot of Draupadi. And then Durvasa Muni and his thousands of disciples all became completely satisfied, stuffed. So anyway, if we actually understand that we are servants of Krishna, Jiver Sarup Hoy Nitya Krishna Das, Krishna Nitya Das, then the servant should try to understand what is the desire of the master. Not just a lazy servant, the kind that steals from his master, puts the silverware in a bag and takes it home. But a real servant that's trying to understand what is the desire of the master. So there's no ambiguity about Lord Krishna's desire. It's not that we have to scratch our heads or try to figure out, well, what does Krishna want anyway? We know what Krishna wants. We know what he wants. He wants Jare Dako Tare Koho Krishna Upade, that we preach Krishna consciousness. We preach Krishna consciousness. So, if we do not preach, if we lose our taste for preaching, we must again revive our taste for material life. There's no question. Material life means bodily concept of life, bodily relationships, and becoming concerned, getting money for myself. All these things are described in the Bhagavatam. Pungsastriya, there will be sex attraction. If we lose our taste for preaching, there must be some kind of lower attraction. In 99.9% of the cases. Pungsastriyami tuni bhavametam tayormito hridya grantimahu. Then by the sex attraction, the heart will become bound to this world. We will think, no, this world's very important. I don't want to die. I have to stay here. I have many things to do here. Pungsa hridya grantimahu ato griyakshetra sutapta vitayar janasya moho. So these things are also explained by Prahlad Maharaj. Matirna Krishna Prataksato Vamithu Vipajjeta Grihapratana. If one is a householder sannyasi, it doesn't matter. We can see so many devotees are preaching. There's no hard and fast rule that a grihastha cannot preach. Anyone in any order of life can preach. But if one becomes griha brata, sworn to the griha. In other words, he's sworn to the griha brata. Brata means a vow. He's taken a vow. Give me my griha or give me death. So, in other words, He's sworn to the Griha Vrata. Vrata means a vow. He's taken a vow. Give me my Griha or give me death. So if one becomes Griha Vrata in that way, then Prahlad Maharaj says there is no way that he can understand Krishna. Matir means consciousness. Matir na Krishne parataksato vamito vipadyeta. The mind cannot approach Krishna, Matir na Krishne, parata, by taking help from others, satova, by one's own efforts, mito, by joint venture, parataksato mito vipadyeta griha pratanam, for those who think that the central point of my life is home sweet home. That is not the central point. That may be a point. One may be household. There's no discrimination. Just like in the song by Narottam Das Thakur, Gaurangera Dutipada, he says, Griheva vanete thake, ha Gauranga bole dake. It doesn't matter. He says, Griheva vanete take. You can remain in your family life, Griheva vanete take, or you can take sannyas. In either case, if you glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then your life will be successful. Griheva vanete take, ha Gauranga bole dake. So it's not a question of ashram, just like we see some sannyasis do not preach and end up entangled in so many ways, and the householder may preach, or vice versa. So it is not a bodily designation. It is a question of one's desire to serve Krishna. So if we do not distribute Krishna consciousness, then our life will be impoverished, in a sense. Our life will be impoverished. Because we have received this knowledge, but we are not distributing. We are not distributing. So just as the earth was taking her share of sacrifice, but not distributing, so if we take this knowledge of Krishna, but do not distribute, then we'll also have to suffer in different ways. So we should preach very enthusiastically. Anyway, I will stop here. Are there any questions on these points? Yes.
Why was
It was a mistake on her part. Just as we also sometimes make a mistake. We are devotees, or let us say we are trying to be devotees, but sometimes we make a mistake also. So be very careful. Prabhupada said it's like shaving with a sharp razor. If you make a mistake, there'll be blood. So any other question? Usually not too many questions before breakfast. Well, like this. But I want to do something, then I'll tell you about it. Well, I'd like to be Krishna conscious. Yes, but I have some plans also for preaching. I have a few plans. So, maybe by Krishna's mercy something will happen. So, we'll stop here. All glories to the Prabhupada.
The following is a class on Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by His Divine Grace, Hridayananda Das Goswami, Acharya Dev. Chapter 11, Text 3. On March 1st, 1987, at the Sunday Feast in London.
So, going to read from the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Translations and purports by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. 11th chapter, text 3. First I'll read the first two texts from that chapter, then we'll chant the third text. Arjuna vacha madanugrahaya paramam guya madhyatma sangitam yasvayoktam vachasenam Oyam Vijato Mama Vavapya Yogi Bhutanam Suto Visaraso Maya Tata Kamala Patraksha Mahatmyam Apichavyayam Evam Etajathatha Tvam Atmanam Parmeshara Drashtumichhami te rupam Aisaram Purushottamam. Text 1, translation. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these confidential subject matters, my illusion has now been dispelled. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita reveals Krishna as the cause of all causes. He is even the cause of the Mahavishnu, from whom the material universes emanate. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the source of all incarnation. That has been completely explained in the last chapter. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he says that his illusion is over. This means that Arjuna no longer thinks of Krishna as a mere human being, as a friend of his, but as the source of everything. Arjuna is very enlightened and is glad that he has such a great friend as Krishna. But now he is thinking that although he may accept Krishna as the source of everything, others may not. So, in order to establish Krishna's divinity for all, he is requesting Krishna in this chapter to show his universal form. Actually, when one sees the universal form of Krishna, one becomes frightened, like Arjuna. But Krishna is so kind that after showing it, he converts himself again into his original form. Arjuna agrees to what Krishna has several times said. Krishna is speaking to him just for his benefit, for Arjuna's benefit. So Arjuna acknowledges that all this is happening to him by Krishna's grace. He is now convinced that Krishna is the cause of all causes and is present in everyone's heart as the super soul. Then text 2. Arjuna speaking. O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity, and have realized your inexhaustible glory. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna addresses Lord Krishna as lotus-eyed. Krishna's eyes appear just like the petals of a lotus flower, and Arjuna speaks this way out of his joy. For Krishna has assured him in the previous chapter, Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava Pralayastata. Quote, I am the source of the appearance and disappearance of this entire material manifestation. Unquote. Arjuna has heard of this from the Lord in detail. Arjuna further knows that in spite of the Lord's being the source of all appearances and disappearances, the Lord is aloof from them. As the Lord has said in the 9th chapter, He is all-pervading, yet He is not personally present everywhere. That is the inconceivable opulence of Krishna, which Arjuna admits that he has thoroughly understood. Then the third text, Arjuna goes on. O greatest of all personalities, O Supreme Form, although I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. I want to see that form of yours. Purport. The Lord has said that because he entered into the material universe by his personal representation, the cosmic manifestation has been made possible and is going on. Now, as far as Arjuna is concerned, he is inspired by the statements of Krishna. But in order to convince others in the future who may think that Krishna is an ordinary person, Arjuna desires to see him actually in his universal form, to see how he is acting from within the universe, although he is apart from it. Arjuna's addressing the Lord as Purushottama is also significant. Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is present within Arjuna himself. Therefore, he knows the desire of Arjuna, and he can understand that Arjuna has no special desire to see him in his universal form. For Arjuna is completely satisfied to see the Lord in the Lord's personal form, Krishna. But the Lord can understand also that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to convince others. Arjuna did not have any personal desire for confirmation. Krishna also understands that Arjuna wants to see the universal form to set a criterion, for in the future there would be so many impostors who would pose themselves as incarnations of God. The people, therefore, should be careful. One who claims to be Krishna should be prepared to show his universal form to confirm his claim to the people. Then I'll read one last text, then we'll discuss these verses. Arjuna says, Manyase jadi tat shakyam maya drashtum iti bravo yogeshara tato me twam garshayatmanam abhyayam. If you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that universal self. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that one can neither see, hear, understand, nor perceive the Supreme Lord, Krishna, by the material senses. But if one is engaged in loving transcendental service to the Lord from the beginning, then one can see the Lord by revelation. Every living entity is only a spiritual spark. Therefore, it is not possible to see or to understand the Supreme Lord. Arjuna, as a devotee, does not depend on his speculative strength. Does not depend on his speculative strength. Rather, he admits his limitations as a living entity and acknowledges Krishna's inestimable position. Arjuna could understand that for a living entity it is not possible to understand the unlimited infinite. If the infinite reveals himself, then it is possible to understand the nature of the infinite by the grace of the infinite. The word Yogeshwara is also very significant here because the Lord has inconceivable power. If he likes, he can reveal himself by his grace, although he is unlimited. Therefore, Arjuna pleads for the inconceivable grace of Krishna. He does not give Krishna orders. Krishna is not obliged to reveal himself unless one surrenders fully in Krishna consciousness and engages in devotional service. Thus, it is not possible for persons who depend on the strength of their mental speculation to see Krishna. Om jnana tamirandhasya jnanam jana shalakaya satsurum militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Sthapitam Jena Rupane Sang Rupa Kadavayam Dadati Swapadanti. So, in these first four texts of Bhagavad Gita, first four texts of the 11th chapter, we find the fundamental process of approaching the absolute truth. Approaching the absolute truth. Arjuna begins by saying, Maranugrahaya paramam bhuyam adhyatma sangitam yatvayoktam vachastena mohoyam avigato mama. Arjuna says, my dear Lord, Maranugrahaya, in order to show me mercy, Madanugrahaya, Gujam adhyatma sangitam yatvayoktam vachastena. You have spoken, in order to show me mercy, you have spoken this confidential knowledge, which is understood to be spiritual knowledge. It's understood to be spiritual knowledge, adhyatma. Of course, as we know, there are perennially other methods or other approaches by which human beings seek to acquire knowledge. There's a natural tendency to acquire knowledge. For example, if suddenly all of the lights go out and we are suddenly plunged into darkness, we will feel uncomfortable in that situation. If we are suddenly plunged into darkness, we feel uncomfortable, uneasy, until the lights are restored, and again we return to, so to speak, a state of knowledge. So this desire to understand is natural. Of course, there are some human beings that are more or less like beasts of burden. They simply work hard and read some cheap tabloid newspaper with some sensationalistic newspaper and work hard, get some money, eat some food, have sex. They're like beasts of burden. But beyond this level of beasts of burden, dharmena hina pasubhi samana, beyond those who are like animals, there are other human beings who are interested in knowledge. They want to acquire knowledge. As stated in Vedanta Sutra, the very beginning, Adhato Brahma Jigyasa. In human life, real human life means that we should desire to understand the absolute truth, the highest truth. There is one well-known proverb in Sanskrit. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanyametat pasubhi narana dharme hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pasubhi samana. That this proverb states that as far as eating, sleeping, ahara, defending or fighting, and sex, maitunam, as far as these four propensities are concerned, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, there is virtual equality among men and animals, or between men and animals. There is virtual equality on this level. Just like in England, the ordinary people may eat their fish and chips, or whatever they eat here, the animals also have their food. The animals also have their food. We sleep, they sleep. Human beings seek sexual satisfaction, and of course so do animals. And both humans and animals, when they are cornered, they fight. So these propensities we will find among both human beings and animals. But the specific superiority of human beings, adhiko vishesha, means the specific or the distinguishing superiority is dharma. A human being can be religious, not in the ritualistic, fanatical sense, but dharma in Sanskrit means a human being can accept a particular process involving discipline, sacrifice, and cultivation with a higher purpose in order to acquire higher knowledge. This is a very simple point. For example, if someone goes to the university, then to go to the university one has to accept certain sacrifice. Upon graduating, I don't know what they call it in England. In America it's called high school. No, first at the age of 18. A-level. Yes. A-level? Yes. Anyway, upon graduation, one of course has the option of working and getting money. If you go on to the university, you not only don't make money, you have to spend money. Isn't it practical? You have to spend money. There's sacrifice, there's discipline. You have to submit to the whims of so many so-called scholars in so many different ways. It's a type of subjugation. It's a type of apprentice system. So, still, people submit themselves to this because they think they will acquire some higher benefit. They will get some superior knowledge. This is sacrifice to get some higher benefit. So a human being is capable of consciously and willfully making sacrifice, performing austerity to acquire higher knowledge or achieve a superior status in life. And when this propensity is directed toward one's spiritual enhancement, then it is called dharma. That's it. Then it is called dharma. So that dharmena hina pasuvi samana. If someone is devoid of dharma, then that person is no better than an ordinary animal. Just like, for example, one example of a type of mundane or ordinary dharma is that in human society we go to a private place when we have to relieve the body of certain fluids and substances. We go to a private place called a bathroom. Now, if someone cannot accept that type of discipline, so that in public places one relieves oneself, such a person would be considered to be like an animal. That's practical. Someone that cannot accept discipline for the principle of a higher way of life, they're like an animal. Or to give another example, in the ordinary transit, there are red lights and green lights. Now, if a human being goes through the red light, there will be a penalty. But if a dog goes across the street against the red light, there's no penalty. We never see a police official stopping a dog to give him a citation. Why? Because the dog is not able to understand the ways of human life. So it's something similarly, a dog has no responsibility to cultivate spiritual knowledge. But a human being has that responsibility. Of course, nowadays, all over the world, what is called high society or civilized life, in many cases is no better than animal life. It is a type of sophisticated animal life. Anyway, moving on here, when a person, a human being, correctly understands that human life is meant for higher knowledge, for spiritual cultivation, and ultimately for self-realization, then the question arises of selecting a suitable process to advance in that enterprise. Self-realization. It has occurred to thoughtful human beings for many thousands of years, both in the Western world, as certainly in India. It has occurred to thoughtful human beings for practically since time immemorial, that although we have a physical body of which we are constantly aware and ministering to the needs of the body, we also have some type of spiritual soul within the body. This has occurred to thoughtful people all over the world for many, many millennia, virtually since time immemorial. Just as Lord Krishna gives the example in Bhagavad Gita, Ehinosmin yatha dehi kumaram jovanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namoyati. We have experienced asmin dehi, in this body. Krishna is bringing things very close to home, as they say. He says, asmin dehi, in this body. Yatha, introducing an analogy or an example. Just as in this body, we have experience of Kaumara, childhood, Yovana, youth, and Jara, old age. Tatha, similarly, Dehantara Prapti, we will accept another body. Krishna is explaining here that every one of us has experience of what is called reincarnation. Those of you who know modern Latin languages know the word carne. Carne means the flesh. In Spanish and Portuguese and probably other Latin languages as well, the word for flesh is carne. It also, of course, means meat. But it means flesh, la carne. So, reincarnation means to take on another flesh. Reincarnation. So, Lord Krishna explains to us that we have already experienced reincarnation. We have already taken on a new flesh. Every one of us had our Kaumara Sharira, or childhood body, the baby's body also. So where is that baby's body? Where is the child's body? Where is the adolescent body? These things are gone, but we continue to exist. We continue to exist. The point is that depending on the type of body we have, we will experience a particular consciousness. For example, when we had a baby's body, we experienced a baby's consciousness. When we had a child's body, we experienced child consciousness or adolescent consciousness. Or if the body is sick, it modifies the consciousness. So at the present time, because we are conditioned by material nature, depending on the type of body we have acquired, we will experience a particular type of consciousness. That's a fact. Now, we can also experience, however, that there is a continuity of our personal identity throughout these changes of body and changes of consciousness. In other words, things are not merely changing. There is something which is not changing. There is some continuity, some continuous or permanent reality which does not change. Otherwise, there would virtually